Oh, hello everyone. Hi, my name is Ray Matsumiya. I'm the Executive Director of the University of the Middle East Project. And what I'm talking about today is why Hiroshima, Japan is such an ideal place to do peace-building programs for the Middle East. I know it's a very strange cultural connection, but I think you'll find it really interesting. So there's 5 parts to my presentation. First, I'm going to be talking about my own personal background and what motivated me to do this program. I'll talk about my organization called UME, or the University of the Middle East Project. Third, I'll talk about the program we do in Japan called the Oleander Initiative. And lastly, which is really the meat of my presentation, is the reasons why Hiroshima is the ideal place to do peace programming for the Middle East. This is some quick facts about the program in Hiroshima. It's called the Oleander Initiative. It's named after a flower that grew out of the soil of Hiroshima after 3 months. Everyone thought that because of the atomic bombing, nothing would ever grow in Hiroshima ever again. But 3 months later, these beautiful red flowers came up. So that's the reason why we named it the Oleander Initiative. It's both a sign of hope and resiliency, but it's also a warning to the world. So this program takes place during the anniversary of the atomic bombing every year, so that's August 6th. And it includes high school teachers from 9 different countries in the Middle East, and also American teachers as well. And the purpose is for the 2 sides to work together and co-design on classroom projects that transmit Hiroshima's cultures of peace into their classrooms. So this is my background. This is my grandfather. His name is Yoshio Tsuchioka. He lived in a small village outside of Hiroshima during the bombing. It was about 20 miles away, and he was also the captain of the volunteer fire department in his village. So on the morning of August 6th, the villagers came up to his house and they said that something terrible, horrible had happened in Hiroshima. And no one could quite explain what it was. But he knew that he had to go to the city to help the people there. So he got his fire truck ready, he got his men ready. He was just about to leave the house when my grandmother stopped him. And what you have to understand about my grandmother is that she was someone that absolutely loved food. She had a large family, she loved cooking for them. And anytime there was a festival in her village, she was the one that did all the cooking. So for her, food was really the center of her universe. So it made sense to her that when my grandfather went into Hiroshima, that she gave him 4 umusubis. These are Japanese rice balls. Because in her worldview, no matter what happened to you, food was something that could alleviate your pain or help you in some way. So my grandfather took the 4 umusubis and he went into the city. When he arrived in Hiroshima, he saw absolute hell. In a flash, 30,000 people were gone. The entire city was leveled. And worse than the buildings themselves were the survivors of the bomb. And when he tried to help them, he realized that there were only 2 things that they wanted. The first thing was they were so thirsty. They all wanted water and radiation sickness. And the second thing, whether they're soldiers or civilians or men or women or elderly or children, they all wanted their mothers. They all called for their mothers before they passed. So on what must have been the longest day for my grandfather, he went into Hiroshima with 4 umusubis, and he also left with 4 umusubis. About a week later, he felt a strange pain in the back of his left eye. And a few weeks after that, he lost it from the radiation. But until he died, he never forgot what that eye had seen. And he made it his mission for the rest of his life to tell people what he learned from this horrific experience. And you can boil it down to 3 lessons of Hiroshima that he transmitted. The first was to forgive but never forget. He forgave the Americans for what happened. He didn't blame the Americans specifically, he blamed war. And he forgave them to an extent that my mother was immigrated to this country. But he never forgot what had happened there and the suffering that happened. The second thing was that my grandfather was part of the greatest generation of Japanese people. These are people that took a country that was completely devastated and they rebuilt it into one of the greatest industrial nations on earth. So to do that, he couldn't get stuck in pain and revenge and things like that. He had to move forwards. And he always had this vision of always looking towards the future to make Japan better than it was right now. And the third was the most important, that he thought it was the duty of every single human being to work together to make sure what happened in Hiroshima never happened again. So he took these 3 lessons and he gave them to my mother. And when she came here to this country, she gave them to me. And ever since I was like 3 years old, she could be like, you have to work for peace. You got to do something about all this. So that's why I'm in my field. I was really lucky about 20 years ago where I met a group of graduate students, and they're all from the Boston area. They're students from all over the Middle East. And they were at Harvard and the Fletcher School and MIT. And what had happened was that they had all become really good friends through their classes. And that's our basic mission of the University of the Middle East Project, is to use education as a means to promote mutual understanding and peace. We specialize in secondary school teachers, so all our programs are focused on high school teachers. And the reason why we do this is because we believe that high school teachers are among the most powerful people in society because they have access to so many students. You know, one teacher in the Middle East will teach approximately 200 to 300 students. So one participant in our program has the capacity to translate what they learn to 200 or 300 individuals in their most formative years in their lives. We judge our programs not just by what happens in the program, but what happens after the program by measuring how many students are impacted by our programs. We call that the multiplier effect. Our first program was in Boston in 1999 in Boston College. We ran this program for teachers for, I think, around 14 years. This is 2000. You'll notice, unfortunately, I keep getting fatter in each one of my, each one of these as we keep going. We also do programs all over the United States. So this is a program we did here in DC, in New York, in Rhode Island. We also do programs outside of the United States as well. We do programs in Toledo and Sevilla in Spain, in Lebanon, Egypt, Jordan, and Morocco. These are the different sponsors, the Department of State here, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Spain, and we've been in these publications around the world. So in all, over the last 20 years, we've had over 2,500 participants in 46 different programs in 7 different countries. But you'll never guess which country has been the most successful in terms of programming. It's Japan. And I'm going to tell you I'm going to now tell you more about our program that takes place in Japan. This is our first year in 2016, 2017, and 2008. This is last year. So this program takes over 10 days, and it's split into 2 different phases. The first phase is kind of this knowledge acquisition. Hiroshima is an amazing place during the anniversary week. There's so many things going on that are related to peace. And our participants absorb all this. And what we ask them to do is for them to understand what the lesson of Hiroshima was. My grandfather had his own lessons, but we asked them, what can you learn from this catastrophe? And we asked them to really think about that for themselves. And the second phase is we ask our teachers, once they have an understanding of what the lesson of Hiroshima is for themselves, how do you transmit this to your students in a way they understand in their own local contexts? I think the heart of our program are the hibakushas. Hibakusha are the victims of the bombs. All these people here lived through the atomic bombing, and many of them have lost relatives and loved ones. And what they do, what I think is so essential about what they do, is that they take something as huge as 40,000 people dying, as huge as nuclear war, as huge as the end of the world, and they personalize it. They tell stories about what happened to them and how they dealt with this. And they take something that's incomprehensible and they make it personable and understandable. So I think it's really inspiring to our teachers. We also work with professors from the Hiroshima area, and they talk more about the technical aspects of the bomb, but they also talk about things like how the bombing was memorialized and how that changed, or the effects of the bomb on Japanese popular culture. Like, these are all strings that our teachers can hang on to figure out their own lesson of Hiroshima. And they attend something called the World Conference Against A and H Bombs. This is the oldest and largest conference in the world, and it has 10,000 people from 60 different countries attending. So this is a really inspirational part of the program for a lot of our Middle Eastern educators, because in places like Algeria, it's illegal to bring more than like 8 people together in a gathering. But for them to see 10,000 people from around the world all united in the name of peace is tremendously uninspiring to them. We attend the August 6th memorial ceremony. It's really moving. We also have special tickets from the mayor of Hiroshima to attend. What's of special interest to our teachers is the Hiroshima Peace Curriculum. Hiroshima is one of the only cities in the world where it's legally mandated that every single level of education must have a peace education component. So starting from preschool all the way to high school, there's an element of peace education in every single citizen of Hiroshima's education. Following all these events, like our professors and facilitators run extensive debrief sessions so our participants can really understand what the lesson of Hiroshima is for themselves. And then near the end of the program, we move into the second phase. So what our teachers do is after this 1 week of being bombarded by lessons of Hiroshima, they try to figure out how to make these same lessons resonate within their own classrooms. And it's a challenge, because this is something that happened 75 years ago, it's in Japan, but how do you make that relevant to what's going on in their own countries? And this is a major part of our program too, because it's Americans and Middle Easterners, they all work together to co-design these projects, and that's an element in our program as well. So these are some of the projects that were implemented in the Middle East and North Africa. And it's really interesting. It's like by bringing 2 different cultures that usually don't interact, you can really produce some amazing results. So this is a project in Morocco. And what this teacher discovered was that what resonated most in their students was the story of Sadako and the 1,000 paper cranes. Does anyone know this story? I'll give you a quick briefing. Sadako was around 3 or 4 years old when the bomb dropped. And her house was destroyed, and she lost some relatives, but she herself was fine. Like, she didn't feel she wasn't burned, she wasn't killed. But about 10 years later, and one of the terrible things about nuclear weapons is that the impact isn't always immediately known. About 10 years later, she realized that she had leukemia from the radiation of the bomb. And it happened really fast, and she really started losing her life. And she was in her hospital bed, and someone told her about this Japanese mythology. And what this mythology said was that if you hold 1,000 paper cranes, you'll be granted any wish that you want. So she started holding these little cranes. And she got to, I think, around 670 something. And then she passed. And she didn't make it. But what her classmates did was they pulled the last 330 cranes for her. And their wish was for there to be world peace. So ever since then, the paper crane has been a symbol of peace in Hiroshima, and that's why President Obama folded one during his visit. So he implemented this project in his classroom in Tisneet, and it was so successful that other superintendents heard of it, and they asked him to do the same project for their classrooms. So he moved from Tisneet to Beirut and Ifran. And at the end, his students folded around 500 of these paper cranes. So when I visited him in Tisneet, he gave me a whole stack of these paper cranes. And he said, "Oh, you gotta get these back to Hiroshima and dedicate them." And I was like, "Okay, I'll do that." And I took these cranes from Tisneet to Agadir to Casablanca to New York to Boston to Tokyo, and then Tokyo to Hiroshima. So these cranes traveled around the world, which wasn't lost on the students. And in Hiroshima, I was able to dedicate them to Sadako's memorial statue. What's great about this activity is that what can a Middle Eastern teenager do in their own classrooms to promote peace? War and political factors are so big, everyone feels helpless. But folding paper cranes is a very small but tangible way for these kids to feel empowered, especially if you know that it's gone around the world to be dedicated in Japan. This is another project from Morocco. It was a student peace conference around the theme of Hiroshima. And this is an art contest where the winners put on a t-shirt. But I was able to take this t-shirt, and that's the mayor of Nagasaki in the top right. And that's the former ambassador of Kuwait from Japan on the bottom. So once again, it's like this idea of empowering the students by doing something tangible for peace. I think one of the most fascinating things about this program is the interaction between Japanese and Middle Eastern cultures. So these Moroccan kids made a play. And this is a play about Syria. So in the beginning of the play there's the army, and there's massive civilian massacres and terrible things that are happening. And then an angel of peace comes and stops the violence. Can you guess who that angel might be? It's Sadako from Japan. So there's this girl from 70 years that passed away 60 years ago that's stopping violence in Syria. And I think that's just an amazing cross-cultural thing that they created. It wasn't just Morocco and Tunisia. The lesson of Hiroshima that this educator took was that it's the responsibility of each person to promote peace. So she implemented that in her classroom. So she made her kids realize that each one of them is responsible for peace in their classroom. So she implemented a peer mediation class and a conflict resolution class around the theme of Hiroshima. In Jordan, this teacher believed that violence is caused by a lack of critical thinking. Young people in the Middle East may join Daesh or bad groups because they're not thinking critically. So she used Hiroshima to create a debate between her class, where one side was Japanese and the other side was American, and they debated about the use of the bomb. But the main idea was to increase critical thinking, which she thought was the main threat for peace in their country. I thought Lebanon was one of the more interesting ones. This is an anime called Beirut, and it's about 1,000 pages long, but only the first 100 pages is about the day of the bombing. 900 pages is about the rebuilding of Hiroshima after the bombing. So that's really the theme that him and his students cling on, is like this idea of resilience and rebuilding and unity in rebuilding. You can see why it resonates within these students, because this is Hiroshima in 1945. This is Hiroshima today. But this is Beirut in 1983 and 2006. And this is Beirut today. So you can see why it resonates within these students. We also had successful projects in Egypt, Palestine, Saudi Arabia. And usually our programs have a 50% or 60% implementation rate, which means that the teachers come to our program, they learn things, and only half of them are able to translate what they learn. But for this program, it's been 80 to 100%. So we know that just within 1 year, over 6,000 students have been affected directly by what their teachers learned in Hiroshima. But what's really amazing about this program is that when we used to do programs here in the States or in Spain, our teachers get a lot of resistance about what they learned in the States. And their principals or supervisors would stop them from implementing what they learned. But it's been the opposite in the Middle East, where all the ministers of education are supporting our teachers to spread what they learned to other teachers. So this is an example of this. In Morocco, these two teachers that attended the Hiroshima program trained 54 teachers about what they learned. You can see that, you can quickly do the math, and if each Moroccan teacher teaches 250 students and over 50 teachers were in attendance, is the potential impact of impacting over 13,000 students. But this teacher went on to train 300 more teachers, and another teacher from Tunisia trained over 250 teachers. 100 teachers in Lebanon, 12 additional teachers in Jordan. So just within the last 3 years, we know that an additional 750 teachers were trained in this content. So with a potential impact of 187,000. So this is the conclusion of my presentation. So why is this so successful in the Middle East? And for me, there are 3 different reasons. The first is the perception of Japan in the Middle East region. I'm always amazed when I go to the Middle East and you're like, I'm American there, but where are you really from? I know Yabani. Okay, you have Yabani. And then they're like, oh, you're the guys that make Toyota. You're the guys that make Hitachi or whatever. real reputation of Japan being like industrious, honest people that is really useful in the Middle East. So when there's a road made by USAID on it, and I asked the locals what they think of the road, they'll be like, oh, I'm sure we had to do something terrible. Maybe we had to torture some people to get that road built. But if it's Japan, and they built things like the Cairo Opera House, they're like, oh, I think it's because they're nice people. So you can see how different the perception is between the two countries. Japan's also perceived as being politically neutral in the Middle East. They don't have a hand in things. And only 1% of Japan is either Jewish, Muslim, or Christian. So there isn't those religious ties either. So it's really a clean slate to do these types of programs. In America, the history is long and often bad between the two regions. We've had things like 9/11, there's Islamophobia. Even in Spain, I'll never forget, the first program we did in Toledo, we went to a castle. At the very front of the castle was a huge painting of a crusader beheading a Muslim warrior. So that wasn't a great way to start out the program. But Japan is completely clean. There's no link. So it's really a great place to do programming. The second reason is that we really fulfill an educational niche in the Middle East. When I was growing up in Boston, I learned things like Diary of Anne Frank or Night, or the Armenian genocide. And these are terrible catastrophes that happen in history, but they're also great learning platforms. I learned about authoritarianism, I learned about prejudice, I learned about you need to do things that are right and stand up for others. But for obvious reasons, you can't talk about the Holocaust or the Armenian genocide in Middle Eastern classrooms. It's much too political. But if it's Hiroshima, and it's something that happened 75 years ago in a politically neutral country, that is a great platform, apolitical platform for students to learn from. And it gives our teachers this leeway to tackle some controversial topics. It gives new narratives for peace. It gives people a chance to talk about resilience and tolerance and forgiveness. So it fulfills an educational niche in the Middle East that is missing right now. And that's what the ministries are supporting it. The last reason is the city of Hiroshima itself. It's really a special city. It's called the City of Peace. When you're in front of the Genbaku, the symbol of the bombing of Hiroshima, you're not checking your phone. You're not thinking about your grocery list for next week. You're immersed in that moment, which is increasingly rare these days. It's also a great example of mainstream peace. Remember, the city was completely destroyed because of war, and now it's a beautiful, thriving metropolis. And on top of that, there's a whole ethos of peace within Hiroshima. Everything is based around peace. The main road is called Peace Boulevard. The main park is Peace Park. There's also peace cafes, and peace hotels, and peace pizzas, and peace nail salons. So it's been somewhat commercialized. The idea is that everything in Hiroshima is all about peace. And I think what that does is that I think one of the most crucial things about our program is that the participants have to feel that there's hope for the future, that they have to be optimistic, they have to feel that what they do in their classroom is going to make a difference. And Hiroshima is a living proof of that, and it gives that optimism to our teachers that they need to do what they do in their classrooms. And lastly, I remember when we used to do programs here in D.C., at the end, the State Department representative would come and talk to our participants and be like, you need to work for peace. And that would always result in mixed results because of our own foreign policies and animosity towards our country. But when our participants are in Hiroshima, and there's someone who lost their entire family in the atomic bombing, and she says, this happened, but I know that I need to work towards the future. And I want you to work for peace. Our participants really listen, and that's the major difference. That's the end of my presentation, and I'll take any questions if you have them. Please.
Yeah, one thing, thinking of Hiroshima, particular lesson that comes out from Hiroshima and the whole experience in Japan in World War II, I guess it's expressed in the book, came out maybe about 15 years ago, or 20 years, I guess 20 years ago, called Embracing Defeat by a historian at MIT, Dower. He talked about how, John Dower, that's right, exactly. He talked about how Japan, as it were, embraced defeat. I mean, that was massive destruction of Japan, but Do you bring that lesson across to members from the Middle East in Iran or anyone who would be inclined to support the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt to say, look, you have to embrace a defeat of such radical ideologies and for example, follow the Japanese example of taking sort of sectarian religious ideology out of politics and build a free society?
We don't push any on particular ideology or particular framework on how to interpret Hiroshima. What we do, I mean, first of all, our participants are from 9 different countries in the Middle East. They all have their own Ukrainians as well as Americans. So we ask them to figure out for themselves what the lesson is. Of course, the cause of the atomic bomb, Japan's military aggression, is part of it. So that's also considered too. So it's up to them to figure out whether that's the lesson they want to transmit or not. Other questions?
Is Israel one of these countries?
This was really focused on the Middle East and on the Arab countries and America. That's what the axis we're working on.
If you're working for peace, doesn't it make sense to have Israel and the Arab countries?
Yeah, we used to do programs like that, but we did a little bit of a pivot. But we're hoping, it's been such a great, successful way to do international diplomacy. We're really hoping that in the future we're going to bring more conflict groups to Hiroshima, and of course, Israelis and Palestinians would be one of those groups.
Thank you for the presentation. What do you think of Japan in comparing it to the Middle East in terms of deliberate, basically, assistance of the funding that the Japanese got after Hiroshima, and then the disengagement, relative disengagement of U.S. foreign policy and Western policies, as in contrast with the Middle East, while day to day we are still.
One of the greatest strategies was on. We're just talking about this. You know, the rebuilding and reconstruction efforts assisted by the Americans are so successful in Japan and in Germany after World War II. Why didn't the same thing happen in Iraq or Afghanistan? And that's a question I can't really answer. I don't know why they pushed through. Is that a better question?
Yeah, I mean, because it's the engagement is still there, right? In Iraq and Yemen and in other shapes and forms, but the engagement is still there. So how does that really, how can the Middle East learn this lesson from Japan, while on the other hand, they are still suffering the consequences, for example, in Yemen by the U.S. Arms, whatever it may be in the Middle East, how does that play?
That's a great point, because that's going to make sure that each educator takes the lesson that they want to take. So one of the themes that happen a lot in Hiroshima is I need forgiveness, right? Forgiving your enemies. But you can't forgive your enemies if you're in active conflict zone. There's a difference between rebuilding after a conflict and being in the conflict right now. You can't have that quality, or you can't express that quality as much as you can. There's a practical reason. And that's why, for those teachers, they come away with different lessons in Hiroshima than others. Last question.
Yes, sir. Middle East found huge investments in Japan after bombing Hiroshima. The Japanese citizen has the idea of Hiroshima and the American fixing the problem of Hiroshima, improving the country by huge investments. So I think the comparison with the Middle East is not a correct comparison at all. Because the Americans didn't only bomb Hiroshima, they built in Japan, they found huge investments in Japan. So I think what happened there couldn't happen here. Or I don't think my brain cannot accept it's so.
Well, we're not making an equal symmetry between the two sides. This is an educational program. And the idea is that they see this example and they adapt it to their own context. So
I'm suggesting that let's mark something for the Middle Easterners to fix what the results of the sequences of the American policies in the Middle East by building new democracy. The Middle East doesn't need any investments, any American investments. They have the resources, but still they need America in building a better life, supporting democracy, can make the comparison. If America donated something to the Middle East does really need. In the Middle East, they don't need money. They have a lot. But still, they need a lot of American morals, American way of life, American democracy. This is what I'm suggesting. If you want to make any program that is successful in the Middle East, let's make the Middle Easters think positively about America. And then anything will not be there will work. So I'm suggesting just, I'm not the expert yet, but I'm suggesting as a student so that you give me feedback as an educator.
Okay, maybe we talk more about it after. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. That was a very impressive presentation. My name is Stephen David. I'm a professor of political science at Johns Hopkins University. I'm talking about a very different subject. Talking about, does Israel have a future? And by a future, I mean, does it have a future as a Jewish democratic state? It's an important topic because Israel is probably one of the only countries in the world whose existence is routinely called into question. When a country, I don't know, Iran does something the world doesn't like, people say Iran shouldn't behave that way. Saudi Arabia does something, the Saudi Arabia shouldn't behave that way. Egypt, any country, you're wrong to do that, you shouldn't behave that way. With Israel, when Israel does something that the world doesn't like, often the next question or the next statement is, therefore it does not have the right to exist. And perhaps there are no other countries in the world where this is the case. So I want to consider this notion of Israel's future existence. First by looking very briefly at Israel's ancient past, then by looking at the question of how states die in general, in the modern era, and then look at threats to Israel's existence, both hard threats that would destroy the physical nature of Israel, and in some ways more importantly soft threats that would end Israel either as a Jewish state or as a democracy. So let me just turn very briefly to the ancient world. You may not realize it, but Israel, as a Jewish state or entity, was destroyed 3 times in the ancient world. Israel was destroyed in 722 BC by the Assyrians. It was destroyed by the Babylonians in 586 BC, and was destroyed by the Romans in 70 and later in 135 AD. So there's certainly a tradition of Israel existing as a Jewish entity and being wiped off from that. In all of these cases, the reasons had to do with the growth of a powerful hegemon in the area, whether it be the Assyrians, the Babylonians, or the Romans, that simply wiped Israel off. I mean, some of the wiped Israel off from that. Some of the lessons from these episodes, I can go into greater detail later, have to do with the problems that exist today, the problems of internal division within the kingdoms of ancient Israel, the rise of a powerful adversary, and an ally that didn't come through. In many cases, this was Egypt. The Bible calls it broken reed. Several times, ancient Israel hoped that Egypt would come to its aid, and it was too little, too late. And in the end, it didn't work out. And these lessons of internal divisions, rise of powerful adversary, and maybe an ally who isn't there for you when you need it, resonate in the modern world. Let me talk a bit about modern state then. It's very different. By modern, we're talking about post-World War II. But before getting to that, let me just say, we tend to think of countries as lasting forever. And that's not true, not just with Israel, but historically. The political sociologist Charles Tilly talked about that in Europe in the year 1500, you had about 500 states or independent entities. By 1900, that had whittled down to about 20.
So over 90% of the independent states that existed in Europe disappeared. Now, how did they disappear? Well, the most common reason was conquest. More powerful neighbors gobbled up less powerful states. And what's interesting in the modern era, post-World War II, post-Cold War, is that conquest hardly ever happens anymore. Again, a lot of reasons for this having to do with the decline of interstate war, the belief that you don't really get that much by conquering another people, international norms. But it is very rare for a country to conquer another country and sort of eliminate it from the community of nations. As far as my thinking about this, since World War II, the only country I can think of that has been wiped off the map through conquest is South Vietnam. I mean, Kuwait did so briefly, but it was then restored to life. So the most common form of state death that existed historically, being conquered by another country, has virtually disappeared in the modern era. Doesn't mean that aggression still doesn't happen, problems still can happen. Russia is still part of Ukraine and Crimea, and there are all kinds of concerns about external aggression. But still, it's noteworthy to keep in mind that being conquered is not what it used to be. So, let me turn back to Israel, given these very brief historical overviews. What kind of threats threaten Israel's existence? Well, again, beginning with hard threats that would destroy Israel physically. The good news for Israel is that conquest is a very remote concept. The Arab states that surround Israel, Iran, lack the capability to conquer Israel. Israel is militarily stronger. Its economy is far more robust than any of its neighbors. And furthermore, the conditions necessary for military conquest are simply not there. Israel has a treaty with Egypt, perhaps the strongest Arab state. Syria, another strong Arab country, is preoccupied with its own civil war. The Soviet Union, that played a major role in supporting the Arab states, is no more. Russia lacks the capacity to take the place of the Soviet Union, so the Arab countries in Iran don't have a powerful outside benefactor. And significantly, if Israel's adversaries were to get lucky, as almost happened in '73, and seek to overrun it, Israel has nuclear weapons, and they know that. And they know that moving to destroy Israel militarily would provoke a nuclear response and their own demise. So the notion of conquest, which has dominated Israeli history for much of its history, simply isn't a live option anymore. I mean, that's the good news for Israel. The bad news for Israel is that nuclear weapons, which are its ultimate safeguard, could one day bring about its demise. Israel is a very small country. We just heard about Japan. Japan suffered a horrible nuclear attack and the two cities were destroyed. Hiroshima and Nagasaki, August 6th and August 9th, 1945. But Japan was able to continue as a viable country, and it was able, as we just saw, to resurrect itself into being this industrial powerhouse. With Israel, if we destroy two cities, two major cities, it would end Israel as a state. Over half of its population is concentrated in either Haifa, Tel Aviv, or Jerusalem. You destroy two of those cities, or all three, Israel's over. So if any of its adversaries get nuclear weapons and use them against Israel, that certainly could be one end that Israel would be destroyed. And these threats are real. Iran, which has openly and consistently called for the destruction of Israel, has a large nuclear capability that at some point might enable it to develop nuclear weapons. So you're getting a country that has threatened to destroy Israel, developing the capability to carry out those threats. deal, I think, did much to constrain Iranian efforts to develop nuclear weapons. But given America's departure from that deal, its future remains uncertain. Iran's nuclear infrastructure remains intact, and its threats to destroy Israel continue to be made. So there's a real danger there when we talk about the future existence of Israel of a nuclear attack. I think more significantly, however, than hard threats, or more likely, I would say, are the soft threats to Israel that would end it either as a democracy or as a Jewish state. And the strongest threats really focus on Israel as a democracy. Let me first be clear that Israel today is a democracy. Obviously, an imperfect democracy, world democracy, but nevertheless, it is a democratic state in that all its citizens have the right to vote, to elect members to the Israeli parliament, the Knesset. There's freedom of speech, freedom of religion, an independent court system, the kinds of things that are not very common throughout the Middle East. Nevertheless, there are forces in Israel, especially from the right, that are pushing Israel ever more to being a Jewish state and less of a democratic state. These forces exist in some of the ultra-Orthodox, ultra-religious parties who see Israel's Jewish status as much more important than democracy. They exist among the settlers in the occupied territories. And I should say, when I call Israel a democracy, the occupied territories clearly are not a democracy. But the settlers also seem to have few concerns about Israel's democracy and much more pushing Israel in this Jewish state direction. Israel's government today, as we proved, under Netanyahu, is probably the most right-wing government in Israel's history. We'll wait to see in April whether or not it is restored, kept in power. But certainly there are a number of trends that call into question Israel as a democratic state because of these right-wing influences. I might add the passing of the nationality law, which declared Israel to be a Jewish state, seemingly relegated its Arab citizens. In a formal sense, the second-class status is another move in the direction that erodes Israel's democratic status. There's also, on the other side, on the left, pushing Israel to be more democratic but less of a Jewish state. The notion on the left is that we don't care so much about Israel's Jewish status. What we care about is its democratic status. And to be a full democracy, we don't make any distinctions between people based on race or, in this case, religion. Who are these people on the left? Well, first, about 20% of Israel's population is Arab, and many Israeli Arab intellectuals have called on Israel to be a state of all its citizens. By that they mean a state that does not give special status to being Jewish. Now, this moves Israel in a democratic direction, but again, it ends or threatens to end Israel's status as a Jewish state. There are many Israeli Jewish intellectuals, professors, newspaper columnists, people in the entertainment industry, also who are pushing Israel more and more to end its Jewish status and become more democratic. My own view is that if Israel ceases to be either a Jewish state or a democratic state, its existence as Israel as we know it now will cease. In terms of this movement on the left, it is much less potent, much less powerful than the movement on the right. So if I had to put money down, if someone said to me, in 50 years Israel is not going to be a Jewish democracy, my bet would be that the democratic part would be the part that would be sacrificed, not the Jewish part. But nevertheless, both threats exist. Exacerbating these threats is the threat of is the whole question of the occupation in the West Bank. The Israelis call Judea and Samaria. The problem here is, to a certain extent, a demographic. Israel, as a Jewish state, maintains its Jewish status because it's roughly 75% Jewish. And it maintained this large Jewish majority throughout its history. If you throw in the population of the West Bank, then it comes to about 58% Jewish. So again, here its Jewish status is mitigated. Moreover, the Arab birth rate, although declining, is still larger, still more robust than the Jewish birth rate. So over years, you're going to have an Arab majority in the Jewish state. And this, assuming Israel incorporates West Bank. So what do you do if you have an Arab majority of your state? Well, you can give the Arabs the right to vote, in which case Israel ceases to be a Jewish state. You cannot give them the right to vote, in which case Israel ceases to be a democracy. So it's a horrible problem that, at least in my view, is best solved by ending the occupation and facilitating the emergence of a Palestinian state. But that's not going to happen overnight, not just because the Israelis don't want that to happen, but because on the other side, it's hard to imagine who the Arab representatives would be that would make that happen. But that's a whole other bag of words. But again, if you're worried about Israel's existence as a Jewish democracy, certainly figuring out how to incorporate an Arab majority into the Jewish state is a very common question. Another question dealing with Israel's survival is the support of the United States. One could argue that Israel's survival is dependent on having a major superpower ally. But throughout Israel's history, major power allies have come and gone. In its existence, when it first came into existence in 1948, Israeli War of Independence, its major ally was the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union provided critical support to Israel via Czechoslovakia, which enabled the new state to survive. The Soviet Union then quickly said, enough of this, we don't want to do that anymore, and so they left. The Israelis' next big allies were Britain and France. The British and the French, very supportive of Israel, provided weapons, diplomatic support. France even built a nuclear reactor which gave Israel nuclear weapons in Dimona. Very strong allies. They then fell by the wayside. America only really became a strong supporter of Israel, a strong ally of Israel, following the 1967 war. But certainly Israeli, looking at history and looking at international politics in general, might say that, well, America's our benefactor now. Who's to say it's going to be our benefactor forever? And for the Israelis, there are worrying signs about American support. I mean, essentially, when you try and figure out why America has been so supportive of Israel, I mean, three items come to the fore. Israel is seen as a strategic asset. Israel is seen as someone having the same values as the United States, and the so-called Israel lobby. But all of these factors are in some questions as to whether or not they're going to continue. In terms of strategic significance, one can argue that Israel's strategic significance has diminished now that the Cold War is over. It's in a position of no longer supplying important intelligence against the Soviet Union. Nevertheless, Israel remains the most powerful military force in the area, and perhaps the only country in the Middle East whose pro-American alignment is not up for grabs. Other Middle Eastern countries, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, the government changes, the pro-American alignment will change. That's not the case with Israel. Nevertheless, at the end of the Cold War, there is some pushback as to whether or not Israel is this great strategic asset. Some argue that being friends so close to Israel alienates the Arab Middle East, much of the rest of the world. So the strategic contribution is subject to some question. Common values is another factor that unites the two countries. Some argue that Israel's treatment of Palestinians, occupation erodes this sense of common values. Although religious values and common democracies does seem to have a strong force to unite the countries. Incidentally, the strongest supporters of Israel are not American Jews, make up less than 2% of America's population. They're the evangelicals, who make up over 25% of the voting population, a much stronger voting bloc. But one of the issues is that Israeli support in America has always been bipartisan. That is being called into question. More and more, the Democrats are becoming less supportive of Israel, more critical of Israel. Republicans steadfast in their support of Israel, which is somewhat remarkable in that American Jews overwhelmingly belong to the Democratic Party, a party that is leaving its support of Israel. So anyway, the whole question of common values may be called into question. Finally, there's the Israel lobby, organizations and individuals who work to increase American support for Israel. I'm not a believer that the Israel lobby is as powerful and as demonic as many people argue. One of the reasons I'm not so believing in the power of the lobby, first of all, some of its major defeats. Most recently, the lobby, as far as it exists, was very supportive of the Iran nuclear deal, was supportive of, rather, America leaving the Iran deal. Obama signed the deal despite a lot of evidence. But more to the point, American public opinion is overwhelmingly still supportive of Israel. I mean, when you look at a lobby's influence, the best case for a lobby's strong influence is going against the wishes of the American people. To me, the gun lobby is an example of a lobby that distorts people's wishes. Overwhelmingly, America supports the gun laws, and yet we don't have it. So there's a puzzle there that the lobby seems to fill. With America and Israel, overwhelmingly Americans support Israel, America supports Israel. So yes, the lobby facilitates it, maybe increases it, but the notion that it totally changes it, something different. Nevertheless, insofar as the lobby exists, its influence is diminishing, in part because there are many different views within the so-called lobbying establishment. You've got AIPAC, which is strongly supportive of whatever Israel does. You also have groups like J Street, which is very critical of Israel. And you have some groups like Jewish Voices for Peace, want to see Israel ended as a state. So, when we put all this together, what does all this mean? What can be done? I think looking at all the various threats to Israel, to me, the two most important, two most significant are first the threat of nuclear attack. Because clearly nuclear weapons would annihilate Israel in a way that it could never recover from. So the lesson to Israel, one that I think is embraced, is that it cannot let its adversaries develop nuclear weapons. If Iran gets close to nuclear weapons, I suspect Israel will launch a preventive strike, which would destroy their capability to go against Israel. This would not be easy. But bear in mind they've done this before. They did this in Iraq in 1981, Syria in 2007. Very likely they would do it against Iran. Much more difficult target, but when you survive as a state, you do it. The other big threat, of course, is to Israel's democracy. The notion that Israel more and more will become more Jewish and less democratic. And a lot of this strikes me as tied in the occupation and the absence of a viable Palestinian state. And we certainly hope that the Israelis would work much more strenuously to make the conditions necessary where first they can leave the West Bank and provide the basis of a Palestinian state. To me, that's the only way they can preserve themselves as a Jewish democracy. So let me stop there and ask if there are any questions on this.
Yeah, as you mentioned, that we have some Israelis pushing for a democratic state, some Israelis pushing for a Jewish state. We know that the United States and the West are going to continue to see a democratic state, but the Arab neighbors, are they pushing for something? And I feel that they were pushing and especially if there's going to be some relations. So the Arabs, again, is there actually that the Arabs are pushing for a Jewish state as opposed to a democratic state?
It's an interesting question. I don't see any evidence that Arab neighbors of Israel are pushing it in the more Jewish direction. In fact, you still have strong opposition in the Arab world to the settlements and other factors which push Israel more in the Jewish direction. Although a lot of these agendas have now become more muted. It would be, in a way, an interesting strategy to push Israel to become a Jewish state and its democratic status, and therefore you then American support for Israel. But I don't think anyone is quite moving those chess pieces in that way. Plus, my guess is the ability of the Arab states to influence Israeli internal politics is somewhat limited.
You had mentioned that the Arab constituency within Israel is about 20%.
Yeah.
What were they in 1950?
In 1950,
Yeah. Was
Well,
is
when-
that an increase in the percentage of, or is it the repatriation of Jews to Israel has balanced the
it
number?
was similar to I'm just thinking, when Israel was established, you had, let me put aside those Arabs who were displaced, who you had a population of 600,000, roughly 600,000 Jews and 150,000 Arabs. So they were about 25%.
So they're still voting the same.
Yes, it's been staying the same.
Is it due to demographic growth or is it due to immigration of Jewish people?
A lot of it is in Jewish immigration.
Do you anticipate in the next 50 years there will be more Jewish immigration?
It's a good question.
Substitute for the demographic increases for the Arabs way of growing their families?
The only large Jewish population that remains in the world is here in America. And American immigration to Israel is tiny. Maybe a couple of thousand a year, and many of them eventually come back to the United States. The other major repositories of Jewish population was, we had the Soviet Union, we had over 1 million Jews come to Israel, and that bolstered the Jewish population. But aside from America, they don't exist. People don't realize this. Jews make up a tiny portion of the world population, maybe 13, 14 million people. There are cities in China and India that have far more people than that.
So in 50 years from now, where do you think the demographic distribution will be? The proper state is in?
I think a lot depends on whether Israel holds on to the occupied territories. If you hold,
Let's assume that they follow the wisdom of two states.
okay, I wish they would, but I think they can hold a large Jewish majority. Israel is one of the few developed states where you have large population growth, even in the Jewish population as well. Not quite as large as the Arab population. Plus the Arab population growth diminishes. As everywhere in the world, when women become educated, emancipated, they have fewer children. That is the case among the Arab population in Israel too. A lot of the population growth in Israel comes from the ultra-Orthodox, who have very large families, not known to the adherence to democratic principles. And that can change things. Like the ultra-Orthodox now, maybe about 10% of the population, but a much larger percentage of children, kindergartners, are there. So that can change the nature of Israel in ways that, again, move it outside democratic areas. A lot of things that we can learn about. Other questions? Yeah.
What do you say to the other intellectuals who declare the power of AI, for example, such as John Moshire and Stephen Wall, and the documented fact, basically. For example, in 2008, when the recession happened, all U.S. foreign aid Palestinian was cut, apart from one country, and as we all know, it's the most, Israel doesn't really need that aid.
Yeah.
The country next door, Egypt, needs that aid more than Israel, right? I think everyone agrees on that. So that vote manifested in facts. How does that, how do you challenge that?
It's a good question. And the Matsumiya Hopkins was a major attack on what they call the Israel lobby. I think while it had some insights that it was dramatically exaggerated, especially in terms of arguing that America went to the Iraq war because of the so-called Israel lobby. If you look at the book, they will selectively choose people in the American government who were Jewish, Paul Hopkins, Douglas Stein, Pearl, and say, aha, this Jewish conspiracy pushing America to Iraq. They virtually ignore other people in the government, such as the president, George Bush, Donald Rumsfeld, the Secretary of Defense, Dick Cheney, the Vice President, and others, Condoleezza Rice. If you were not Jewish and advocated for the war, you got very little attention. If you were Jewish, you were elevated. I think this was part of the pattern of the book into using selective facts to buttress a case that had some validity, but at the end of the day, the book struck me more as a lawyer's brief for a certain point of view rather than a balanced assessment. That said, let me get to your specific point. Israel does get a large portion of aid. All of that aid now is military. And the argument is that Israel is still surrounded by countries that wish it ill will, that would like to destroy it, and that Israel needs strong military support to protect itself from its adversaries. Now, one could argue that the level of support is higher than is warranted, and certainly one can make a reasonable assessment to that. But bear in mind, aside from certain maybe leftist intellectual circles, there is no huge outcry that I can see against American support for Israel. That may change over time as the Democratic Party changes. But public opinion in support of Israel remains robust and strong. There are dips and ups and downs, but usually when public opinion polls ask, who do you support more in the Arab-Israeli conflict? The Israelis or the Palestinians? Usually around 60% of the American public say they support Israel, 19%, 20% Palestinians. That's remained quite consistent throughout history, even before the so-called lobbying emerged. My own personal view is that when we think of why Americans support Israel so much, common values is the most persuasive explanation. Maybe people feel that's exaggerated, but there is a sense, I think Americans look at Israel and see a country that is Western in orientation, that is made up of immigrants, that is a democracy, that has its problems, but is struggling to survive in a tough neighborhood. And that gives support for Israel in America that has been consistent and widespread. I would also say it is very unusual. If you travel throughout the world, most countries, most peoples are not very supportive of Israel. Quite to the contrary. If you look at public opinion polls, you ask individuals, what countries do they hate the most? It's always like Israel, Iran, and North Korea, kind of thing. So it's in companies that it otherwise would choose not to be part of. But America remains different. And I think a lot of it has to do with the sense of common values and certainly the evangelical effect, which is something that can't be discounted, especially when you look at the Republican Party. Look, Mike Pence is a much stronger supporter of Israel than Bernie Sanders. Mm-hmm. So we have to be careful not to assume ridiculous expectation. It is really what determines Israel support. Yes.
I know you mentioned before about political representation for the Arabs in Israel. What do you think if there was to be some sort of like representation of them in the, let's say, the Knesset, but not necessarily giving them like the full freedom to vote, but to vote for certain people to represent them in the institutions of their government?
Well, that exists now. There are Arab parties in the Israeli parliament, and I think they're the third largest party in the Israeli Knesset. So that exists now. What you don't have now is Israeli governments do not make them part of their governing coalition. I'd like to see that change. Look, it's a balancing act. Israel sees itself as a Jewish state, and it sees itself as a democracy. And the question is, how do you treat people who are not Jewish in Israel? And that's going to forever be a conflict and a tension. But bear in mind, Arabs have full formal rights. They vote, they elect parties to the Knesset, have newspapers, but clearly they are second-class citizens in Israel. To be an Arab in a Jewish state, you're not ever fully going to be part of that state.
You talked a little bit about a two-state solution. I assume you're talking about the Gaza Strip being part of the West Bank. Doesn't that geographically, does that make sense?
It's a problem. I mean, you've got a separation, a geographical separation, but it's not an insoluble problem. People have talked about building an overpass. Remember, we're talking about distances which are not that big. Israel, at its finished point, is about 8-9 miles wide. So we're not talking about, Canada here. So you could have an overpass. Some people have talked about a tunnel. I think the bigger problem is political. Gaza is ruled by Hamas, which is an organization which America considers to be a terrorist organization, which not only calls for the end of Israel, but if you look at its charter, it's deeply anti-Semitic. I mean, it blames the Jews for starting World War I, World War II, talks about the elders of Zion, this Tsarist forgery, it said the Jews are trying to take over the world. I mean, it's a disgusting document that something out of like Nazi era. So it's hard to negotiate in good faith with it. I would hope that the Israelis would do more to bolster Mahmoud Abbas, the Palestinian Authority, but he was elected, when was it, 2004 for a 4-year term, and he's in his like 10th or 12th year of a 4-year term. So you don't really have a good Palestinian partner to make peace at this point. And on the Israeli side, you've got a government that's very happy with that. They're not interested in seeing the Palestinian state emerge. So the prospects for peace are as remote as I can think of in my lifetime. But again, in terms of the geographical separation, I think that can be overcome. Yes.
Israel does argue that it has cultural and spiritual ties. You mentioned Israel in antiquity that it ruled and then it was taken by Syria and Babylon empires. It was strong when King David ruled, but there's a piece that's missing, and I think that is missing right now is the unification of both tribes of Israel that seems to be distant in politics. Could you argue that essentially there should never be a Jewish state without permission of both tribes of Israel?
So there should never be a Jewish state?
That you can't even reach a Jewish state in the first place without the 12 tribes already mentioned. Currently, it's always, some people would say there's 3 tribes, right? Judah and Benjamin, some people say Levi. What about the other tribes? And why is that mentioned in the government at all? So not mentioned in the government at all, and how can we have that without mentioning the tribes?
Well, I mean, the 12 tribes of Israel were scattered, dispersed, and lost to history with the Assyrian conquest in 722 BCE. So we don't know where those tribes are to reconstitute them. But your broader point needs to be emphasized. There are strong religious ties that the Jewish people have to people talk about Israel simply being this colonial imposition. But in point of fact, Israel existed as a Jewish state, again, in the time I mentioned, the time of David, 1000 BCE. So it's not as if these strange people simply planted themselves with an arbitrary piece of land and called it their own. Now bear in mind, the Palestinians also have strong ties to this land. I mean, lived there for centuries. Islam has strong ties to Jerusalem, Muhammad made his famous night journey. So, look, in my own view, the Israeli Jewish Palestinian conflict is not so much right versus wrong, but right versus wrong. And to me, the obvious solution is what the UN decided in 47, two states. Any other questions? Yeah, do you have a question? Okay. And then, I think we're going a little over, but
is it true that there's a lot of some Jews who live in Israel now believe that the Jewish state is not built yet, and they are waiting for the Messiah to build the Jewish state? So when we speak about the Jewish state, even there is no one opinion among the Jews about the state. Some people deny the righteous of having a state at the current time because there are some conditions that didn't get it. I heard that there are 1 million, but I don't have clear numbers. Is this true, sir?
You're exactly right. Among the ultra-Orthodox, there are some of them who believe that the Israeli state is not legitimate. And you have the Satmar Hasidic who believe that also. They believe that because their view is that you cannot establish a Jewish state until the Messiah comes. Jews do not accept Jesus as the Messiah, so according to the Jewish view, the Messiah has not yet come, and you can't have a country until the Messiah comes. Now this is a minority within Israel, but it exists. Actually, the Israeli ambassador to America, Michael Oren, had written once that in Jerusalem, the capital of Israel, we've got a majority of the people who don't accept Israel's existence. The ultra-Orthodox and the Arabs. Both of which agree that Israel should not exist.
I have a Palestinian friends. I told me that we're treating him in a better way, treating him in a good way, better than treating other Israelis.
Yeah.
Well, we're making shots.
What can I say? You don't agree on that. Anyway, with that, I think